Welcome to the Aaron Werner podcast on iCode Media. This is the second half and final half of the episode that we recorded with Matt Kleir. If you have not listened to the first part of this interview, go listen to last week's episode. It's fantastic. Matt is an individual that I consider a dear friend and I believe is living the American dream and working for everything he has and doing lots of really cool things, lots of good insights, has lived quite the adventurous life. So I think it's a great episode, a great conversation. Hope you enjoy the second half of Matt Kleir's episode. As always, please share this with a friend, subscribe, like, let us know your thoughts. The Myopia Collective. Cooper Vision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think as I think back to the gun in my face at 14 years old, was probably more dangerous than the bullets coming at me in Iraq.
Probably.
You know, I mean, if you really think back, I mean, what's a 14-year-old doing with a gun? Number one, you know what I mean? And those kids are crazy and nuts. And I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if, I mean, we're tested daily, and I guess what I'm getting at is I hear a lot of people say, man, I wish I joined the military so I could really find out who I am. I'll tell you what the military did for me. It destroyed me. Okay, mentally, physically, I no longer have adrenaline. I don't really enjoy all the things that I used to enjoy prior to the military. I don't, I've become more callous, right? Especially, to like other people's pain, physically and emotionally, because it's gone, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm still gonna cry when my dog dies, I don't mean that, but the weakness of the average human being and the things that they get upset about is almost like you're just like and I understand that that's a problem. I'm not saying that you're the problem. I'm saying that I am the problem, and that is a problem that I have. And a good way to explain it is I used to love to race motocross, right? Mm-hmm. And every lap I knew that if I didn't hit those two corners prior to the big triple perfectly, and I didn't shift from third to fourth or whatever the jump required on the face of the jump perfectly, I had a good chance I was going to the hospital by not making that jump. Right. And I had that adrenaline rush every lap. every lap I would go out there and just that adrenaline, those two corners, just like, you can jump the rest of the stuff in the track and you're going fast, but the big one, and there was one out at Gorman, the track that I used to, it was like kind of my home track. And it was a good motocross track, but for a while they had two 40-foot tabletops, and if you put them together, it was 120 feet. And
picture up there?
I think, yeah, on the blue bike right there.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, that's me cracking that 120-foot
wow.
jump. You know what I mean? And it's, by today's standards, I mean, that was huge back. That was a 2002 bike, so that's 2002. That was huge back then. Now these guys are jumping 300 feet, 180. Oh, it's 180, and I did it in third gear. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was all a fourth gear. You know what I mean? And so every lap you would get that adrenaline rush, right? And it's gone. It's not there. Like when I had the emergency landing in the Comanche, when I got out, I was like,
okay.
I just broke world records making the 180 a death turn that you're never ever supposed to do to turn around to get to the airport. For those of you, I lost my engine on the climb out. So it was running, but it was backfiring and popping. And I was in a Comanche 250 and I was up in Auburn. And one direction of the airport takes off out into the Sacramento Valley, and the other direction of the airstrip takes off into the Sierras. And there was no real wind. It was like a 3-knot wind. And I'd been in and out of there all weekend, and I was flying home by myself, and there was a tail dragger who has to land into the wind, and he was on 8. So I was like, whatever, I got a Comanche. It's got a lot of power. And so I went down to 8 and I took off. So I'm taking off. So as I'm climbing out, the mountains are ascending with me. So it's a really steep climb. And I'd normally just turn and no big deal, and the plane would handle it. Engine started backfiring, losing power, and I was probably 600, maybe 400 feet above the ground. And so I look left, look right, look left. There's nothing but trees and power lines and canyons and mountains. And I went, well, I got to go back to the airport. So I buried the nose, and I did the turn. And the turn, they say, never make the 180-degree turn because you'll lose so much airspeed and altitude that you'll either stall the plane and roll out of the sky and smash, nose first, or you'll just crash into the dirt. And I said, it's a Comanche and it glides really well. So anyway, I buried the nose and I turned it around. And now I'm on what we call short final on a 3,750-foot runway, which is relatively short, going 140 miles an hour. And I should have been doing about 90 at that point. And I radioed to the guy that was getting ready to roll out in front of me that I was, hey, short final, almost an emergency. And I saw his nose dive because he hit his brakes, And I had dumped the flaps, lowered the landing gear, and I put the plane in a full slip, which is flying the plane sideways, to do everything I could to slow down. And I flew the plane into the ground. Normally you just let the plane kind of glide and stall. I flew, forced it into the ground, and I grabbed the handbrake and rebounded off the ground, but at least I slowed down. And then I did that, and I stopped sideways with the brakes locked about 50 feet from the end of the runway.
Wow.
And there was rocks. I mean, there was another 100 feet of gravel, but the airplane would have been destroyed at that point. Anyway, I had flat spotted the tires, and the engine's still running, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's idling, right? Yeah. So I taxied back, but the fuel guys had heard on the radio. The fuel truck guys have radios, so you can just call them on the radio. Hey, come fill me up, right? They had heard that somebody was on an emergency landing. And there's a really popular cafe. Plus, it's a big training airport, so there's 100 people watching me taxi back, right? And I'm like, oh fuck, here we go, right? So I'm taxiing back, and I'm kind of looking at fuel pressure and looking, and all this happened in a minute and a half, and I'm looking at stuff, and I taxi back, and I stop by where there's a little tie down area, and everybody runs over. You're all right, and yeah, man, cool. They're like, dude, you're not even shaking. I'm like, doesn't exist in my world anymore. Sorry, can't tell you this whole story, but I wish I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish that I could have that feeling every lap on the track. I wish that I could get excited and have adrenaline. They say I still have it, but my mind's so used to processing it because I've been through so much that it just doesn't react anymore. Yeah. I don't know if it's a PTSD issue. You're a doctor, but I don't get that rush. And that right there, like, why the f would you join the military? Like, why would you do that to yourself? There's nothing in my life that gives me that excitement that I was able to have 10 years prior. And it's not a healthy, fun place to be.
No. That excitement, no, but I've seen you get excited on your accomplishments. I've seen you get excited on...
Well, yeah, that's...
I mean, you're not just like... You're not,
no, that's not an adrenaline dump, though.
Yeah, you're not... I'm processing
I
out
still
loud.
find enjoyment in life, but I don't find the true enjoyment that I enjoyed for roughly 35 years of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that feeling of being scared, knowing that's amazing. That being on the edge, where you're on
feeling alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And no, you didn't want to join the military. No, it's not a mistake. You did what you were supposed to do. No. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in you don't want to be in the position that I'm in right now. No. I would rather, the other thing, and I'm getting a little bit, I'm going to get a little bit negative. Americans kind of suck. Okay?
You're going to have to explain that one.
And what I mean is I've been all over this globe. I've never set foot on Antarctica or Australia, and I have no desire to do either. Maybe Antarctica, but I'll never go to Australia. And I've frequented Baja, Mexico since I was a little kid, riding dirt bikes, doing all that. And almost everywhere I've been, including Iraq, the people are nicer. Okay? Because the people that wanted us there loved us. Mm-hmm. The people that didn't want us there, they wanted to kill us, right? Yeah. But that's okay. But the people that wanted us there loved us. Everywhere that I've gone, with the exception of highly developed westernized worlds like the UK and America, the people are nicer. Okay? They're more eager to help you in the time of need, like America used to be in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. We used to be rad. You see a car skid off the road, and 10 cars would stop in the 90s. And they would jump out, and they would rip you out of the car, and they would help you. And now 10 cars drive by slow with their camera phones out. And nobody stops to help.
Yeah.
Okay? And so what I think about is that I gave up all that fun dirt bike stuff to protect a population of people that won't even stop and help when somebody's hurt. And that irritating. Okay?
That is.
So no, you didn't want to join the military, because if you wanted to join the military, you would have done it. Now, my experience in the military was pretty damn awesome. Okay? And it was cowboys and Indians. You know what I mean? And you can't buy that. You can't buy it. And those moments over there were pretty awesome. If I had it to do over again, I wouldn't do it.
Interesting.
Because I gave up too much. And I gave it up for a populace that sucks. And I'm not saying everybody sucks, because I know wonderful people, and I know a lot of wonderful people, but the majority...
No, it's changed. I mean, I don't know my neighbors like I did growing up. I don't know I'm still one of the ones that stop and pull over, but I'm now the one truck that stopped and pulled over trying to help the burning car on the freeway, not 20 different cars. Yeah.
And different states are different ways, but this country needs to get back to what it was, what it was. And I remember thinking, what year was W? What year was W? This was right before 9/11.
Yeah.
Right before 9/11, I was actually driving to work, going, people are getting nicer, and this country's pretty rad. It was pre 9/11, and I was really thinking about how rough the 80s and early 90s were, and I don't know if that was just my experience, but I remember thinking, driving to work, going to West Oaks Chrysler or wherever I was going, Shaver Pontiac, and thinking wow, this place is pretty cool, and maybe it was just because I was whatever I was, 26 at the time, and 9/11 happened, and then everybody kind of united, and then that got all convoluted, and we went after all the wrong shit, but whatever. We wanted our revenge, but if I could go back to that point, because I messed up. I messed up the relationship with my wife. I messed up the relationship with my kid. God, I was gone so much. How do you do that? Missed all that time, and I gave it all up for somebody that's not even they're gonna take their camera out while I'm on fire, and they're gonna go, they're gonna put it on YouTube, and they're gonna get $1 million for me suffering. Yep. And so if I knew, and then there's some other things, like why we were there and what we were doing. But if I knew what I know now back then, I never would have done it. Still be a mechanic. Mad at the world because I'm still a mechanic.
Mechanic? Mechanic's a good job. Well, now, especially now you can't even work on cars. You got to be a computer engineer.
I can still work on cars. I choose not to work on cars.
Well, my cars are now computers.
That's another thing. I'm not good at running and building businesses. I'm good at building jobs for myself. Okay? Because if I was good at running businesses, I could be hands off on most of these. But I am really good at building shit that requires me to be there 100% of the time. And that's not. I haven't figured out that hurdle yet.
Well, I'll let you on a little secret. I don't know the stats. I'm going to make it up. That's 90+% of small business in the U.S.
Yeah, okay, I would agree with that.
You're passionate about something.
Yeah.
I would bring it back to my very tame doctor world, right? I'm passionate about being a doctor, so I open a business where I'm the doctor.
Right.
And the business is me, not the business.
Right.
Now, in my role, I've been able to step back and manage a business, and I've got other doctors there.
Right.
But that's the exception to the rule and not the rule.
Okay.
The challenge is keeping the culture, and I'm cheating because my dad's part of the ones who are still there.
That's it.
But when Matt's my contractor, but Matt's not there, how do I still get Matt through his workers? Right. That's part of the challenge because their end product is you.
Right.
It is reflective of you. If you can figure that one out, you'll make a lot of money because you'll teach a lot of businesses how to do that.
Well, once we can start the cloning process, I can clone me, and but then I would just be in a fight with myself all the time.
Well, there's a movie about that. It didn't work off too well.
But that and it's I don't.
But I don't think you'd be happy if you weren't working.
No, and I learned that about myself. I learned that about myself a long time ago, and I will never traditionally retire, and I know that. Because I can't. I can't. It's not in me to just watch TV.
I don't see you sitting on a beach drinking an umbrella.
It doesn't matter how much money I have. No. I'm not going to formally retire. And I know that. And even if I was not quote unquote working, I would be doing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm never going to sit still. I'm not built like that. But I don't see myself getting a motorhome and traveling around the country and sitting by campfires or withering away in a chair watching my favorite shows.
No, you're going to fly around and not be in a motorhome, but you're going to be in the air, right?
Right. Yeah. But that's exciting.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually gonna go be a fucking airline pilot, dude.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really looking at it, and I have a friend who I fly with that's pretty hooked up at one of the major airlines, and he's like, dude, you'd be a shoo-in. So I need a few more hours, and I need a couple different certifications, but
I can picture you giving the Southwest announcement, singing something to me.
Yeah. I think that would be because I'm coming up on 50, and I can still fly passenger jets for 15 years.
Okay.
And that's a long time. But not that I would do it for 15 years, but I would be able to. I love traveling, and don't let my wife hear this, but I love traveling alone. I love traveling with my wife, okay?
I know your wife. I don't.
No, I do. I love her to death. She's great.
No, she's going to hear us talk about this, and I'm going to get the phone call.
I understand, but she does too. Okay, she loves the same thing, and I'm not saying that I don't want to travel with her. Okay, but she'll put those words in my mouth. What I'm saying is I really enjoy just like people watching and meeting new people, and it's a little different when you're alone because you can just sit down at the bar and have a conversation with somebody. You know, if you're as a couple, you just really, you can, and we do, and it's fun. Love you, but just doing whatever the hell I want in the moment that I want to do it. I want to walk over there. I want to go over here. I don't want to sleep there. I'm going to go to another place. Yeah. You know what I mean? I enjoy that, and I enjoy seeing new places on my terms. Yeah. You know, because I don't want to go like look at Disneyland. I would if I'm going to go to LA, I'm going to go look at SpaceX. Yeah. You know, or I'm going to go to the Museum of Science and Industry, and I am going to have a great time learning about all that neat stuff. Yeah. And you know, whatever. And but I enjoy. So I think being an airline pilot might be, you know, it might be fun. I don't want to. They'll probably take the romance out of it by making you fly to the same damn place every time. But I don't know. I think it would be a good third retirement job. You know? Yeah. So, and the money's not bad. No. The money's not bad. No. And
it's the happiness, and that's.
And the ratio is good, like the hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fly and then get some downtime and and engage and knowing who you are, going back to the identity and what you want, what makes you happy and makes you tick, right? Because my wife could live at Disney and loves it.
Oh right? It's fun for about 3 hours.
Enjoys teaching, can be in a classroom, right? I can handle Disney a day every couple of years, right? And I can handle lecturing in a teenage classroom for about 20 minutes.
Yep.
Adults are different, but it's knowing who you are, knowing your strengths. But circling back around to the whole idea of the like looking at you at living the American dream, you can do all these things.
Anybody can do all these things.
But you're doing it.
But here's that, right? Here's that, and there's a couple quotes and that kind of stuck with me, and one of my favorite is good fortune rewards the bold.
Good fortune rewards the bold.
Right.
I like that.
Okay. And that one's always kind of like, okay, you know, I don't ask myself what would Jesus do. I would ask myself what's the bold move here, you know? And you know, that goes back to you've got to be able to stomach those weeks or months that you have a zero bank account, you know? And you've got to also be able to you know, put your nose to the grindstone or whatever you want to call it in that time, and preferably before that time, so you don't ever see that zero bank account again. I've been pretty good in the last few years, but you know, it gets low when I get into that, you know, nose to the grindstone mode, but you have to be able to do whatever it takes. Yeah. If I have to sit here and do administrative stuff, beating my head against that desk for 3 days, that's what I do. And if I have to be out there in the field sawing logs and moving concrete, that's what I do. If I have to jump in and save that amount of labor because I need that $400 that I would pay that concrete finisher, guess what? I'm getting my concrete tools out and I'm finishing concrete. Yeah. And yeah, I'm not above it at all. And I think that's probably the key to it. You know, never be above it. Never be too good for yourself.
No.
You know. Yeah. The other one I like is luck favors the bold, or luck favors. Sorry. You're better to be lucky than good any day of the week, or I'd rather be lucky than good.
Be lucky than good.
Any day of the week. But then you take that to the next paragraph, and luck usually favors those who train and practice. Yeah. You know, and it really does. You know, all those years of racing the motorcycles and shooting the guns and it really teaches you. Yeah, I was lucky that, you know, I was swapping on that dirt bike at 105 miles an hour and I got it straightened out, you know what I mean? But was I lucky? Was that luck? Was that divine intervention? Was that just 20 years of doing it and being in the right shape and doing the exercises and doing this and making sure that the bike was prepped right and making sure the maintenance was done and making sure that everything was exactly to spec? So is it luck? Yeah, I think there's a lot that luck has a lot to do with it. I've seen some stuff that you're like, there's no way that guy just walked away from that, both overseas and in the motorcycle world. I've crashed at over 100 miles an hour in a dirt bike, slid, tumbling, sliding, tumbling through the dirt, and jumped up, not a damn scratch. I wore a lot of gear, whatever, elbows, I don't count those, little road rash here and there. But I mean, like, my bones are still intact, and I am physically trying to run to my bike because I was in a race at 105 miles an hour over the handlebars. Okay, I hit a fire pit. So this was up in one of the District 37 races, and it was up near China Lake, and there's a couple dry lake beds in that area, Randsburg, Johannesburg area, and they held a lot of the races out there, Red Mountain. And they sent us out onto a dry lake bed. And when you get out onto these dry lake beds, you're fighting the dust, right? So the leaders will they'll spread out a little bit so they have their own clear area of dust free until you get back to the trail, and it's just basically a race across the lake. Well, I was probably 10th, right? So there was no wind, so it was just like this layer of dust. But I knew that there was dry lake bed. I knew where I was. I knew the area. And so whatever, wide open, and on the old 2-strokes, you used to keep the engine alive, you would do like a 1/1000 wide open, and then you would hit the kill switch and never lift the throttle and hold the kill switch closed for like 2 seconds. So you'd be like 1/1000, 2/1000, 1/1000, 2/1000, and what that was doing was allowing that cold fuel and air to cool the cylinder so you wouldn't just melt the engine down. That's how you keep those motocross bikes alive, the old 2-strokes. So I was doing that, and I'm tucked down, and 185,000 yards that way and 185,000 yards that way was completely clear. But there was a rock fire pit right in front of me. Never even saw it. And when you hit that stuff, it punts you up. Yep. And it was the longest endo. Like, the whole time I'm like, I can save it. I got it. Because you're thinking, but it's God's holding onto your feet at that point. You're not thinking that way. You're just like, yeah, I still got it. And then you tuck and roll, and then you tumble, and then the bike cartwheels, and that was 105 miles an hour.
Wow.
Right? Okay. Jumped up, ran to the bike, picked it up, knocked the lever straight. Subframe was bent, but the bike still ran, finished the race. You know what I mean? And, the bars are a little tweaked, but whatever, and you have to knock the dirt out of the throttle tube, that kind of stuff. But, that was luck, was it? I mean, I was wearing asterisk knee braces and Tech 8 boots and all the, best helmet made, and I was in really good shape. And I'd rather be lucky than good any day of the week.
Yeah. But. Was there a quote, something around like luck is preparation, or preparation and training collide, or they meet, or something along those lines?
Probably.
Right?
It's probably something great. Yeah. Doesn't pop to my mind. Maybe Jamie said it.
Yeah. No, I think being there's something to be said about being prepared. I remember when I graduated optometry school, my dad looked at me and said, "Congratulations, in 5 years you'll be a doctor."
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought he was just being a punk. Like, this is ridiculous. I just spent 4 years. I passed a bunch of tests, or 8 years.
Look at it, says it right.
And look, I got a big old diploma that And then 5 years later, I was like, son of a gun.
Yep.
Right. 10 years later, I look back. I'm like, wow. Now I'm really understanding, and I get young students coming through and eager and hungry, and I want to do this. Okay, well, let's breathe. Let's look at everything. Let's understand it. Or the how did you know to do that? Well, it's because it's experience. I've done it before. I learned the hard way.
Exactly.
Right. I've spent it through. So there's a lot to be said for that being prepared and being in the trenches and being humbled the right way.
Absolutely. Well, how much business training was in your
None.
Exactly. Right? So now you're this doctor, but you have to make a
living
and pay the bills.
Oh, yeah.
And you're probably on net 120 by the time you're getting paid by insurance companies, right?
Yep.
If at all.
Yep.
And I couldn't imagine that. There's my business is too fast turnover. It would never, you know what I mean? I couldn't be on a net 30. It would just never happen unless I was financing jobs.
Right.
And that's I see so many contractors. Contractors, listen. Change your contract and just put in there that you're going to have progressive payments. Okay, because I've seen so many contractors just lose their fortune, and I had $94,000 working capital going into COVID, and by the end of the year, I had $120,000 in credit card debt because a 2x4 that was $1.65 was $12 if you could find it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything in between, and I had contracts that didn't say COVID clause, right? Because
how would you know?
Yeah. I'd been 48 years on this earth, or 47 years on the earth, and I'd never seen COVID, right? And and that was brutal. Okay, brutal. And to take. So for those of you who don't know what working capital is, that's the money you have. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
we thought you were making a boatload because we're doing projects during then, and you're like, yep, and the rate just went up, and I need this much more.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Until you realize it's,
Yeah, it was a rough year.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah. There was, if only I could get my hands around Bill Gates' neck, or Fauci, Anyway, no
we'll
politics.
Edit that part out.
Yep.
No,
leave it in there.
Edit that part. Well, what's funny is that, looking at my business, because we suffered, and we're like, these guys must be doing much better. Rates are low, everybody's buying houses, contractors are going to be in it.
Right.
You're looking at somebody else's business going, well, mine's tough, they're doing better.
Right.
They're looking at somebody else's business, it's that whole grass is always greener, until you just buckle up, look at your own, and say, this is what I do. I'm the expert here. I got this.
Well, I'm the queen of self-pity and procrastination, and they go hand in hand, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I mean that in a business sense, right? So I will find every excuse not to do something that day. Not all the time.
So you're human.
Right. And I'm gonna go fly the airplane. I could finish the welding that, but I'd rather go fly the helicopter.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go jump the pool. And that's bit me a couple times, and then you just make up for it on Sunday. You make up for it on Sunday, and I was down here working on Sunday because I knew that if I didn't, the employees that depend on me for their paycheck wouldn't have anything to do on Monday. Right?
Yep.
And I'm not going to pay them not to do anything, and they need to work, right?
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't that bad, but I needed to get some key components done in anticipation for them to have a productive day.
Of course.
So, down here on a Sunday, with my welding hat on, and complaining to the only person who will listen, which is me. And
you're not a very good listener to complain to.
No, I don't listen. But and it's amazing, I procrastinate until it's time to do it, and then when it's time to do it, I just get it done.
Yep.
And then I realized that I probably should have done that a long time ago because it wasn't that hard.
Yeah. Well, in my world, that's closing charts and charting.
Oh, okay.
Because working with people is great. Making all the notes in the silly little electronic health record is pain.
Yes.
Huge pain.
Yes.
And then when you sign it and you close it, I can't go back and get a do-over. You can't unsign it, unclose it, and fix it, right? And so there's a little bit of anxiety every time you hit the finalize button because I can't unfinalize.
Yeah.
I can make addendums, but that's the non-fun part in the healthcare world. Oh yeah, everything
So,
comes back. And then when you get audited, they're like, "Give me that chart," and you're like, "Well, here you go. I can't edit anything on it. This is what it is." And working with people, treating things, that's fun.
It's got to be super rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noting it all down.
Building cool backyards and pools and neat things for people is super rewarding. It's a lot of fun. And it's been very good to me. ASDS has been extremely good. It damn near runs itself now, and then now and I'm revisiting it.
So how did you get to the point to run yourself? Because we talked earlier. We've gone down a couple different rabbit holes. We talked earlier about how I'm really good at building a job.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So if it's running itself,
Okay.
you made a pivot somewhere in there.
What I mean by that is we just populate the internet with the class schedule, and they fill up. Okay? And they say it takes 10 years to build, a good reputation and name, right? In the business world, I would say it's probably faster now because of the internet, but before the internet, they said to get brand recognition on a name, right? It would take 10 years. And I would say that's, with ASDS, it probably took less than that, but now the classes just fill, and I've got some really good instructors, and Jamie's been a part of it since day one.
Jamie's great, yep.
And Jamie and I work very well together, but I have other guys that can teach also. But what I'm talking about is the reputation fills the classes, and that's what I mean by it runs itself.
Okay.
So we are going to, I think upstairs, we're going to turn that into a classroom with a FATS trainer.
Oh, very cool.
So the 980 scenarios on, live interaction, laser trainer. I've been doing a lot of classes down here, and I find that if I can, with private courses, I can charge less money and make more money if I do the 4 hours here and 4 hours on the range rather than 8 hours on the range, because the range is so expensive. And it's been very successful working here. So I think I'm going to turn the upstairs into something like that.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. And one more tax deduction. So, yeah, man. I mean, if the big takeaway from this is you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do everything that I do. It's not that hard. Okay. For fuck's sake, I don't have a college degree. I've got a couple certifications. I got a whole bunch of law enforcement. I did take some college classes on law enforcement many years ago. I've got a lot of medical training, and I have the desire to succeed and the desire to figure it out. And I've paid my dues, and I continue to pay my dues figuring it out. There's going to be jobs that you're going to lose on figuring it out, but then the next one's easier.
Yep.
And I refuse to be poor. but at the same time, I love mechanical things, and like most of my hobbies involve mechanical things, whether it's dirt bikes or boats or airplanes and helicopters. And unfortunately, they are all really expensive. So if I want to do those things, I have to perform.
Have to work.
That's it.
Yep.
And yeah. Helicopters are a lot of fun, but God, you think boats are expensive? Jesus. But figure out how to tax deduct it.
I like it. So for me, that's the American dream, right? It's not I just postage stamp white picket fence. Some people might want that,
right?
But it's the fact that you get to find what you want. I'm not put into a path of life. I'm not put into a social class I have to sit in, right, or stay in, right? I get a chance to fail.
Yeah.
Right? And which is more important than succeeding, because you learn a lot through failing. But it's pretty cool getting a chance to fail, pick back up, and try again. And you do that enough times, you end up with a cool hangar with 2 planes and a helicopter in it.
Yeah, and a house in Alpine.
And and getting to fly your friends out over the beach and looking at the great white sharks next to the surfers, and building your friends really cool pools and decks and
exactly
right. So that's the
it's not a bad
that's
life.
The dream.
It's not a bad life.
Awesome.
It really isn't, but it is. It does have its moments, and there is some satisfaction in the fact that I'm not going to say that I did it all myself, because I had help along the way.
Of course.
But I didn't have a trust fund, and I didn't have Daddy Warbucks, and it's another thing I did when I was a kid is I always wanted like hot rods, right? But I didn't have, the $2,500 I needed to buy the '69 Camaro big block 4-speed that you could buy in the '90s for $2,500. Yeah, that's about 80 grand right now.
Exactly.
And so I would take and I would buy, I bought a Dodge Dart that had a 318 in it that needed a little bit of work, and I did the work, and I made it a little bit faster, and I made it a little bit better, and I put a coat of paint on it or whatever, right? And I would sell it, and then I would take the next car that I bought, and I had a 70 Plymouth Roadrunner with a big block. I had a 69 Camaro 4-speed. I had a 56 Chevy with a Chrysler 440 in it. 72 Dodge Dart. I had a 72 Nova that ran 10s on nitrous. Did wheelies. Built the whole car myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and might be a picture of it up there. Yeah, that's the orange one right there.
Okay.
But it took, like, the joke was like I bought cars like I changed cars like people change their underwear, and but I would buy them, fix them up, sell them, buy the next more, the next higher.
Well, you're stair-stepping your way.
Stair-stepping my way with
yep.
my manual labor while driving said vehicle around, but I bet you by the time I was 22, I had probably owned over 100 cars, bought and sold over 100 cars.
There's a lot of learning in there. You can't learn out of a book.
Right. And a good salesman, right, is so important to a business.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And that's another failure I see in the contracting industry. And I see people, and John, one of my young employees, right?
John's great.
John's great. Kid's super sharp. He's young. He's 20, 21 years old, 22, somewhere in there. And he's hot. He wants to learn. And he's like, I want to be you. And I'm like, all right, you'll never be this good looking, but I'll help you get to the mechanical part of it. Anyhow, he's a good kid. So one of the clients we have in Coronado, she just had we're in between two major projects at her house. And she said, hey, I want this trellis hung, and I need some outlets done, and I need that. I'm like, why don't you just pay one of the guys, like, cash, and they can do it on the way. Oh, you'd let me do that? Oh yeah. It's not, I can't do this and make money without charging you just an extremely ridiculous amount of money, and I won't do that to you. She's like, oh, okay. So John went down, and he had to figure some things out, but he was selling himself short on, well, what do I charge her? What do you mean? Well, she paid me $200 because I was there 4 hours, right? And I'm like, all right, well, that's good. He's like, well, I asked for $150 and she gave whatever it was, right? And I said, all right, number one, never ever discuss an hourly rate ever again in your life. You do, and I said the clients love that. I said they love to talk hours because they can weasel you down out of money when they talk about hours. I said it's not about hours, John. It's about how much is this job. And I said, you went over there and you hung a couple trellises and you put some outlets in. Who else was she going to call to do that job? The electrician has a $500 minimum. So the bathroom's $500. A handyman is going to charge $400 to come out, and because he has a minimum. It doesn't matter if it takes him half a day or the whole day, he has a minimum. And that trellis was going to be a minimum, so she was looking at the potential of spending $700 to $900 to have the jobs that she just got done for $200. I said, you could have got $300.
Yeah.
And what you do is you say you don't discuss hours, you do the job. When you're done with the job, or before preferably before, I will do these 3 items for $300.
Yeah.
And she would have chomped at that $300, and then it's your job to be efficient, and it's your job to learn how to bid, and it's your job to be like, yeah, it's $300. Oh, you don't want to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
And moving on, call somebody else.
100%. We talk to docs about it all the time. It's not about how quick it is that I fixed your problem. It's the time, knowledge, resources that all went into being able to fix your problem that fast.
Exactly. So the old mechanic joke, and whether this is a true story or not, it's probably bullshit, was guy's had a squeak in his car forever. And he's had, 10 mechanics look at it. Nobody could figure it out. And the old guy in the shop says, okay, I'll take a look at your car. And he drives the car around and he hears the squeak and he pulls off the interior panel and he hits the body with a hammer from the inside. Puts the whole thing back together and lo and behold, the squeak's gone. And he goes, time for the bill, and he says, it's going to be $500. And the customer flips out and he goes, what do you mean it's going to be $500? All you did was hit it with a hammer. And he goes, oh, no. I didn't charge you $500 to hit it with a hammer. I charged you $500 because I knew where to hit it.
Yep.
And that, the same thing with Jamie, with the private courses. I charge a lot of money for private courses because I can make that much money in construction, right? So I have to put a value on myself, and that has, thank God, gone up every year. But why would I go teach somebody on the range when I can make that much money over here?
Yep.
That's stupid. It's bad business, right?
Yeah.
Stick to construction. You hate it, whatever. That's what's making you the money.
Yeah.
Go do that. Okay. I can't, as a good businessman, take my day and go out and teach on the range. Then I look at other instructors who are of the caliber, or even not of the caliber, and they're charging a little bit more than I'm charging, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. You're not that guy. Whatever. Okay. So I have my price, and one day I was questioned on it, and Jamie happened to be there, and I said, I spent 13 years in the military. I spent 25 years shooting competitions. I spent 8 years kicking doors in as a SWAT team guy, and I have had my butt kicked in training that entire time. That is what you are paying for.
Getting that experience.
That you are paying for that, and I am not going to give it to you for $12 an hour. I am sorry. And then I have taken all of that, and I continue to train. I continue to go to other people's classes because I'm not what I was when I first, and the information isn't what it was in 2013 when I got out of the military, right?
Yeah.
And whenever the 2018 when we stopped doing the police work, the information is, there's people have seen more, people have done more, they have analyzed more, they have learned more. So I continue to seek out and pay for training, and that is what you are. And then I've taken all of that and I've made a course.
Yep. And
I think it's pretty good, and that is what you were paying for. So, don't ever sell yourself short, man. It's not, just don't do it.
Nope.
Okay.
That's true across the board.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's hard. It's hard to gain that confidence. And I'll tell you, when I was 20 in John's shoes and wrenching on a car on the side, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just give me $50,
We see it professionally all the time, right? In our world, we break it down in revenue per hour, right? So if you're generating X dollars, $200 an hour, right? $800 an hour, whatever the number is, why would you do something for less?
Right.
Right? So you either do it more efficiently, or you raise the fee appropriately, but
or you just don't do it, right?
Or you just don't do it, right? You've got overhead to handle. You've got everything else to handle.
Right. But then you come back, and I've done this to myself, and I've caught myself with this. I've set my hourly rate, right? Like, I ain't doing shit for less than whatever it is, right? Call it $100, okay? Call it $10, okay? So I've got my hourly rate in my mind. This is what I work for, right? This is what Matt Kleir is worth. It's right here, right? Okay. And then you're like, there's no money in the bank account. Wow. Matt Kleir is now worth $1. And he goes and does that, right? And that's that humility part. And I think I tread that line every day of, how much is $100 worth to you today?
Yeah.
Right? Because tomorrow $100 might be worth a little bit less. It might be worth a lot more. And that's that humility of being in business for yourself. That sometimes you've got to gulp it down and handle it for that dollar.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what makes it fun too. Maybe not at the time always.
No.
But in hindsight,
yeah.
The roller coaster is fun.
Yeah, no, the roller coaster is awesome, and the highs are amazing. There's no way that I would ever have achieved anywhere that I'm at if I hadn't done it on my own. There's no job. There's no job. The job does not exist. 99.9% of the CEOs of any of these regular companies, that they would not be where I am now. You know what I mean? It's just not there.
Yeah.
And you got to take the good with the bad. And back to Dad, right? So he bought a Monaco motorhome, traveled all around the United States. They sold the house. They bought this. For those of you who don't know, Google what Monaco motorhome is. It's like a 500 horsepower diesel big rig engine on a bus chassis. It looks like, it's a party bus, right? Little slide outs, and they had this little Suzuki Samurai that they towed behind it, and they're like, new place, we're going to do this for a few years, right?
That's awesome.
And they went all over, like Canada, Alaska, everywhere, right? All over. And they ended up, slowing down after a couple of years. They're getting a little older, and they bought a place in Oregon that catered to these. You pull your motorhome in, and you kind of live in your motorhome, but you've got like a
little community
shed and a garage. The one in Oregon was pretty basic, and you stayed and then they built like a 1-bedroom house in Yuma.
Okay.
So they would winter in Yuma, summers in Oregon, right?
Great.
And it was all with their little and both of these places kind of catered to these motorhomes, right? And in this retirement community. But about a year into it, he said, and he was an aerospace engineer and retired fairly well, and the house did good. He probably built the house in '62 for $12, and he sold it for a few $100,000. What I right? So he did all right, and thinking back, I think he said he built that house in '62 for like $23,000, like something like just like.
Yeah.
The land was free.
Less than my deck right now.
Right. It was, But I mean, he was making $30 a week at the time or whatever it was, right? You could buy a new '57 Chevy was $2,900, right? Anyway, we were talking, one year, and he goes, he says, I don't care where you retired, what you did. It's like the guys that retired the best had their name on their sign. And he said it didn't matter if they were a plumber, it didn't matter if they made coat hangers.
I like that.
It didn't matter what it was. He could have been a vacuum cleaner repairman with his own little shop. He said if they had their name on the sign, they retired the best. And I was probably in the Navy when we were having that conversation.
I like that.
And maybe I was still wasn't. It was well before I opened any of these companies. And I really thought about that while I was in like my last years in the Navy. And I never joined the Navy for the retirement. I ended up getting my VA benefits, and it's pretty good. I've got some money coming in from that, and it's nice. I'm not going to lie, it's nice to have a few $1,000s a month and medical benefits. But that's only because I broke my back 3 times and bones and this and ripped, literally ripped muscles off of my body and damaged my brain and did all that stuff, right? So, again, I would trade it to go back to 2001 and not do it. But that really stuck with me.
I like that a lot.
It really stuck, and I went, I'm going to put my name on some signs. I'm
going to steal that.
What's that?
So I'm going to steal that. I like
that. No, they're all free.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that one really stuck with me, and I don't think I could, and I've even, even going back like as an airline pilot, like I know I'm going to deal with some corporate BS,
nonsense,
you know what I mean? But I think at that point, it's like a 5-year plan, maybe the 3-year plan. I think I'll have detuned and had enough, and there'll be enough assets. I'm not saying I'm going to definitely not shutting the school down. There's no reason to, and I don't know if DW. I have a couple more hurdles with DW, and if I can get it to the point I want, I can sell it. But it's got to be a little bit more into the state side of things, But we have the right licenses for that. But I'm really hoping Andrew walks into it.
That'd be cool.
With his civil engineering degree.
That'd be really cool.
If he could, hey, all right, I got my degree. Work here for 5 years, take it to this level. There you go.
That'd be cool.
But he's 24. You know how those guys are in their 20s.
He's on his adventure.
Yep. So, but that line really stuck with me, and yeah, I mean, it even working for the airline still is kind of, knowing that I'm going to sit and have to play the corporate game for a while. Not that I can't do it, not that I won't,
But you still got stuff with your name on it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, all the big chains can go away. The Walmarts and the Targets you think about one Walmart, right? And you think about what is in there. Well, there's the vacuum cleaner salesman that used to be a storefront. There's the grocery store that used to be a mom and pop's. Yeah. There's the clothing store that used to be Sears and Roebuck's. You know what I mean? Which it got big, but it really wasn't that big. You know, there. You know, the J.C. Penney's. Those all used to just be owned by people. You know.
Yeah.
And one Walmart is responsible for eliminating 50 small businesses, right? And if you had 50 small businesses in a small community and you supported them, they would come support you in your specialty. And that's how America used to be, and everybody was better off. Now you have 100 employees that would all be running those small businesses, those 50 businesses, and what are they making? Minimum wage? What is it now, $20? You know, it doesn't matter if it's $50. It's just going to move the standard up.
Right.
You know.
You do a good job, I've noticed too, of always supporting small businesses.
Yeah.
We go out to lunch. We go to different places where it's always they're really cool little mom and pop places too.
Yeah. I try to. Yeah. You know, I like to give my money, and I don't care what I pay. It doesn't matter. It comes back to you. Yeah. You know. If the service is good and the food's good, and it's not owned by something, but at the same time, I get Starbucks coffee every morning. You know why? Because I like the people that work there, and it's convenient as hell. It's on my way right down the hill. Yeah. You know, but the employees there are rad. Everybody's super nice, and you know, so I give them $1 or whatever for a tip. You know what I mean? And I enjoy that interaction. But if there was another option, I'm going to use that, you know, if it's owned by somebody. All right, did we cover all topics you want to cover?
We did. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for
fun.
This. Yeah.
Brought up some memories.
Ah.